Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, the podcast about music, news, and interviews. I am Brian, and I am sitting here across a digital wall, across a screen barrier with one of my favorite artists of all time, one of my favorite vocalists of all time, Eric Nally, Foxy Shazam. Welcome back to the podcast. He's reaching out to touch me right now. For the listener at home, I'm being digitally touched.
How you doing, Brian?
I'm so good, man. You were just saying you're in Eastern time. Are you still living in Ohio?
Yeah, yep, Cincinnati.
Wow.
And it's been getting so much rain recently that the river is like swallowing half of the city. It's built for that. It's built for that, though.
Yeah. The Midwest we're ready. I was only curious because I'm like, I feel like a lot of artists, when you get to a certain level, like I've been talking to a lot of people in LA now and like flying out there occasionally. And I'm like, all the artists are here, all the industry's here, and people are like moving out there all the time. Like, what has kept you staying in the Midwest, staying in Ohio? What keeps you there versus going to like the Los Angeles scene?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think traveling has kept me here. So I'm able to go to LA and stay there for a week, be creative, or a week or two. Sometimes it's a month, and that goes for any place in the world. And I think it's kind of cool to use Cincinnati as a hub because it's where my parents lived when I was younger, and it's kind of always where I've just been. There's something in the air for me that's like inspiring, and I find that in all other places too, but there's something specific to this, and I guess some people would call it home.
Ohio specifically is a little bit closer to more of the East Coast than, Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these like states that end up being very, I feel like there's like, a major city, maybe two, you're driving like 4 hours to get to all of them. And the scene kind of becomes like very insular in these places. And I know Ohio obviously had like 3 major cities. A lot of tours come through because it's like a pretty easy place to go. You can hit a bunch of cities in a shorter period of time. You have the benefit of being close to that stuff.
Yeah, it's a cool culture that's like, like a lot of the Appalachia comes up right to Cincinnati, like throughout, it was a big cultural hub for Appalachia coming up and being the first city there, because we're like right, like we can literally see Kentucky across the river. So it's always a cool aspect to the city that I appreciate a lot.
This is going to be my attempt at a transition. How has living in Cincinnati influenced your new album, Animality Opera, out now across the digital landscape of the internet?
I would like to say that, like, being in this land for my entire life, like growing up here. And I think this goes for all people that grow up in all places. That it's like you just kind of soak into this. There's something about it that you carry with you in your expression, and I think that can come through in your style, your clothes, your music, your food, and I like experiencing other versions of that. That's like one of my favorite things to do. So I like to be inspired by all different stuff. And that's why I say travel, it's like it kind of helps you appreciate that everybody has that somewhere else, or maybe it's in your same city, but like there's just so many starting points for everyone. And it's cool that culture is born in places and you get to travel and experience different ones and kind of learn how to recognize your own and appreciate that and then be inspired by others and let it grow. And, so I think moving around has really helped shine light on what it is about just being from somewhere that is cool,
Yeah. I imagine, being in a touring band helps to like, meet a lot of new people, obviously going out with other bands and spending a little bit of time with some new people in each city or as you go around the country, seeing people again as you go. You probably get a lot of that experience of like the different places people come from and the reflection of like, how do I like relate to you and how does our experience like combine in this moment when the show kicks off,
Yeah. I mean, I think like there's been so many people that I've met, and I couldn't even begin to like Some of them there I remember their names, some of them I don't, and that doesn't change anything about how cool it is to be able to meet people and experience different things and travel and, make records with people, make art with people, and spread art to people and music and, meet other artists and play shows, like just being able to experience a live show in the room with people, even if it's small, like even if there's like 5 people there, like you were saying earlier, it's like there's something about that is great, beautiful either way, no matter what size it is. Sometimes it's even more beautiful when it's smaller.
Those are the moments that everybody will always say. I remember when I was in a room with like 5 other people watching this band, and I knew there was something that was going to be special. And then now, you're like playing these big venues, and it's like, yeah, I was here. I was, at this other place. And then the band will also be like, who was there at that first show at this venue? And nobody cheers. They just cheer about the idea that they would have been there. It's like, that was 20 years ago. None of you were there.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I think in what it feels like to me is that size doesn't matter.
I try to tell a lot of people to say that back to me just in case,
Yeah. I mean,
just please encourage me on that.
Yeah, I think it's surprising, like, because the way that the universe works is like the smaller you zoom into something, the bigger it is, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can zoom in forever on something and it turns into a universe. So there's great things in smallness.
That's deep, and I need a second to think about that. Like, damn, it's a good metaphor. Let's talk a little bit about Animality Opera. The new record just came out. I've been, listening to the record, looking at the art and all the stuff. I saw your website has like a 3D experience when you like go into it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like moving around like a jungle. I believe this record was fully self-produced, right?
Yep. Yeah, we recorded this in a studio called Underland Studio.
Okay.
And it's because it's under the ground.
All right.
And there's all these like makeshift instruments that are kind of zany, and like it looks like really weird down there, and like a different crazy lighting, and the amps are so strange, and like the kick drum, the mic techniques, there's canvases everywhere, so it sounds wooden or cardboard. It's really weird.
What was the inspiration of doing it there versus like a high cost, well made, engineered studio with all of like the top of the line equipment?
I wanted to create something without limitations, By getting there, I think was to work with what you have with intention, and like vision. Building it there, like, was the most, gave us access to that, I think, really easily. And not to say that limitations are bad, because sometimes they're good. This time it was just looking at things like differently. I don't know.
I like it. I mean, I go back to the self-titled one with like "Wanna Be Angel," and I literally just listened to it yesterday, like "Oh Lord" and all that. I was like, yeah, you got to go back to this, and I'm just singing along in my car, like, holy shit. But I've said a lot on this podcast about John Feldman as a producer, where he's like made some of my like favorite records of all time, and then he's made some stuff that I'm like, this just doesn't have soul or passion in it at all to me. It just sounds like churned out. And then I'm like, I've listened to it 100 times in a row because I end up liking the songs and all that.
Yeah.
And so like the difference of what came from like, was that album 2012?
That would have been 2010, I think. Yeah.
Like what's come from like 2010 and now 15 years later, like the sound and the different songwriting style and maybe going from that difference of the high production to something that's a little bit more like, let's challenge ourselves and not do what everybody else is kind of creating in the same sound. And it creates the same energy, across all of these bands, and they end up not sounding like themselves anymore. And the soul and the personality kind of comes out of it just to make the same sound, I guess.
Each time we make a record, the the feeling of like having a vision and having an intention and being passionately excited about it is always there. And then there's different scenarios. Like John Feldman is a great example. Like he came together with us and created a dynamic to do something for that we did and we went with, and it was like great. You know what I mean? I love that record, and I have that feeling for every record we do. So in a way, it's like what I've been doing the whole time hasn't really changed. It's just the different people around the albums that have changed that create the sounds that are different. So when I was saying like to make the creative choice to stay in the Underland Studio for Animality, it was because I was inspired by scrappy, raw, edgy, sweaty, scrappy, rockin', just in the heat, sweaty jungle. You know what I mean? Like it was this like just raw, scrappy feeling, and I think like I wanted that, and I think making the creative decision for that was for this record, and then it excites me to think about the ways that can happen in the future. And I'm grateful to look back and see the ways it has happened in the past. And it's kind of like what it's all about for me is to be in the moment with each record. And what I was saying about Animality is to, now that we get further in our career, it's easier to find the ways to be limitless, to like let all the limits go. And by that, I mean, work with what you have.
Yeah.
Don't be waiting on something to happen, because you can easily get into this pattern of like things have to be the way they were. But the magic of it is that things never are the way they are or the way they were. You know what I mean? And you move with that, with this like cool passion and vision. And I think it starts to lay a cool path artistically, you know?
Yeah. And that for me, as somebody who's been listening to you for a long time, like seeing that it was called Animality Opera, and that's also part of the title on the first record, Flamingo Trigger. Yeah. And I was like, this feels like to your point, like dirty, sweaty, like underground, like we're a new band. We have all of that like passion and raw, like we're just trying to go out there and make a name for ourselves and get people to look at us. And then also just the idea of going like all the way back to the first record and now bringing it to the current record. Was there like an intention there too of like the history of Foxy Shazam, or was it like just really like those two words together? Which I was like, it could be that too. Like, was there like an intentionality of using like Animality Opera as the album title relating back to the song on the first record?
Yes, I think like showing that there's it kind of calls back to that being from somewhere, but there's like these certain little energies that circle around, that have been circling around my whole career, you know? And I think when the further you get into your career, the more you realize like, what is that thing that's been circling around this whole time? Like, you know what I mean? Like in the distance, and like I don't even think about it sometimes, but it's been there. And I think animality is just one of those words. Like, you know, I didn't think about that back when I said it, like in 2004 or whatever that was, you know? And it's just kind of stuck around. I don't know. And I like that, you know?
Yeah. I've always said like, I already wrote a lyric. I can't use it again. And then I'm like, nah, if it's a good lyric, if it's good words, if it's good like concept, like just constantly use it. Like, make it your thing.
Yeah, for sure. I like that, because it's like, it's endless, you know? It's like, it's just, I don't know. It's so it'll never be the same way. So you can interpret it all different ways, and it's beautiful. It just kind of starts to take different shapes, and I love that.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years now, you've got a brand new crop of fans that's going to be hearing about you, maybe for the first time, maybe coming to a show for the first time. which I would recommend everybody go, because the shows that I've seen you at have been like memories that I am like, these are some of the best shows I've ever been to. And people will like maybe wonder why. And I'll go, well, here's how it happened from moment one to the end of the show. Cause I remember it so vividly, as though it happened like, 10 years, it probably was like 15 years ago. But now I'm like, no, like today I can tell you like exactly how that show felt.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.
I'm a fan of the craft. I'm a fan of the art, and in many ways, like a lot of people, I look at a band and I go, that's what I want to be. Like what they're
awesome,
doing. The specific one,
Thank you.
I don't remember if we talked about this at Riot Fest, but you played Subterranean in Chicago. Maniac was direct support. Cadaver Dogs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I want to say the opening band was Richardson, which I think was a band. They're from Rockford. And I believe that they were like handpicked to be on the show as like an opener.
Oh, okay.
And I got there early because I was like, I want to be as close to the stage as I can. And Richardson's logo was like just like a black metal logo of just Richardson. And they had a drum machine on a laptop and two bassists. And they were all like big guys. And then the singer comes out, takes off his shirt, and all their lyrics are about wrestling. And they're like maybe 30 seconds long each. And he played like one song and he goes, do we have time for 24 more? And I was like, this is the greatest show I've ever been to. And this is only the opening band. And I know I'll eventually see Cadaver Dogs, another band that I fell in love with. Maniac, I love the matches. So I was very excited for that. And then I think just like by the time like you guys got on stage, I was like, this show as a package, this tour as a package, and all these artists are building up to this like just incredible night. And now I'm seeing like a band that I'm singing every word to, and they're getting all of the room going, and people are crowd surfing, and people are when you like have the mic and you're like just telling a little story in between, it's like everyone is so intently listening to whatever you're saying. And I'm like, this is it. Like a band that can just hold you in that moment. And for just that entire night, I'm like, this is the show. This was the experience.
Thanks, man. That's awesome. That was a Subterranean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a 400 cap room, maybe, depending on if it's all ages or not. But small room.
Yeah.
Just a lot of people having a really good time.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I love playing shows, we were definitely born for it.
Yeah. Your tour starts, by the time this episode comes out, your tour will be starting next week on April 23rd. You're starting in Ferndale, Michigan. And then the next day, the real important city, you're coming to Chicago. So,
Yeah. I'm excited about this whole tour. Like we're starting rehearsals soon too. So just to play live, it's like, can't wait.
Has it been like, if Riot Fest was 2022, I feel like I've seen you since then, but now I'm not sure. Have you been touring since then?
Yeah, we've played 2022. We've done like 3 pretty big tours after that, I believe. But it all kind of goes together.
Yeah, we talked a lot about nostalgia at that time, and how all these bands are now like coming back and on the road, and it's like there's so much happening now that I'm definitely personally getting to a place where I'm like, these are the ones that are important to me, and I want to tell other people that they should be important to them too. And like that week, I think you're coming into town. There's like a show every single night for like 7 days.
Wow.
And I think there's like, I've been invited like 2 other shows in the same night. I'm like, guys, no, it's Foxy Shazam. You got to go to this one. So,
thanks, man. I appreciate that. We're going to have some fun.
What is a Foxy show in 2025 versus like that show, that happened in Subterranean, which is, I think, a little bit more rock, art, like just different types of music and vibe to each band on the show that all came together for that. And so what would you describe like a Foxy tour uh, as an experience in 2025?
I tend to, I mean, with a band like Number 12, it's going to like Jesse Corman has been kind of working with us since the very beginning of our band, and like he is a great friend of mine, and I think like it makes a lot of sense to us, but I think musically there's a like they're metal, you know.
Yeah.
And I think Foxy has always had that edge, so I try to, like, Foxy feels like just like there's not really a genre for us, you know. And so I think we can reach into different worlds and join forces with different artists from very far different places. And I think with each tour, I kind of like to see where one of our, you know, influences can pull in, and like I think it's cool to kind of make tours built from these places of like, you know, different aspects of Foxy, because there's so many musically and sonically and stuff.
Yeah, I mean it is hard to describe like, oh, is this like a heavy band? No, yes, no. Oh, well, like are the other bands like all going to sound like this? Yeah, no. Well, yes. Oh, also no. Like it's hard to like find like that line for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think in many ways, like as a musician myself, I'm like it tickles the part of my brain where like I need to have all of these different things happening at the same time in a way in order to
Hmm.
like really engage with it, because like I think in many ways, like as a band you guys put everything onto the stage, having a keyboardist and a horn player at the same time who are both crowd surfing and jumping up and down and doing flips or whatever, you know. It's like there's so much happening that is like this is like a metal show sort of thing, but like not the right instrumentation for it, not really the full sound. You know, there might be some
Yeah.
screams, but it's not always. It's sort of more like in a like R&B style scream from like the
Yeah.
60s, you know. It's like how do we yeah.
It's high energy, I think, you know, and like I feel like yeah, it's just it's also like something I try not to think about too much in terms of what it is, that what is it that's happening on those shows, because I know that it's like it comes, you know what I mean? It comes without the thinking, and then everybody's locked in.
Do you feel like, and I've heard some artists say like I get up on stage and that's a different guy. Like that's a different person than who I walk off stage as or who I walked on stage as. But do
I
you feel
wouldn't
like it's
say,
that?
I don't think so. I think it's more um like the opportunity to not be humble.
I like
You
that.
know?
Yeah.
It's just like a moment there. I'm a humble guy. I always would like to be, and I always, you know, am, and I like to let other people make an impression on me.
Mm.
So I think when when I'm on stage, the difference is that it's my moment to forget to just be loud, you know. And I think in a free, expressive way. And I have like really built up a performer's aspect of thinking about it, and so I think when I let myself be free, the things that come to me are like funny, you know. And I like that, and it
Yeah.
really makes me smile. It makes other people smile, and like, and the energy's there, you know. So it's just fun.
uh, which is something that I think a lot of music needs. I think a lot of shows need, like live performances need. It
Yeah.
it reminds me of, and I mean, he's from Ohio, he's from Cleveland, so I don't know how you feel about it, but like MGK said, kind of at the height of like the pop punk stuff he was doing, like, there are these guys who play shows and they're wearing comfortable shoes on stage. And it's like, I'm going to wear like really uncomfortable clothes and I'm going to come out like a rock star. And it's like, I don't know if he's always the best messenger for something like that. But at the same time, like, to me, the message is correct. I want to watch a performer and I want to feel in that moment that like that person who's putting on a show is also somebody who's just like me. And I also can like feel that experience in my own life.
Yeah.
And like, you're giving permission, like, don't wear the comfortable shoes, like go do something that makes you feel uncomfortable and be a fucking rock star about it.
Well, it's an interesting thing because shoes should be comfortable.
They should fit right,
I think like, I know what he means, but what is he wearing? Like, wonder what he's wearing.
I think he's wearing like some boots.
Okay.
To me, the metaphor was like I'm wearing like Adidas sneakers right now because I'm like, listen, I'm just walking in the studio, it's whatever. But like if I go out, like I'm wearing like Doc boots or dress shoes or something like that. And when I would perform back in the day, I also would like wear like dress shoes to perform. I remember one time they were the only shoes I had, and I wore them to go see Every Time I Die. And I was in the mosh pit, like getting pushed around. I'm like, I'm wearing like loafers right now. Like these are not the appropriate shoes for the situation that I'm in. But when I feel like when you're on stage, there is like, there always is a costume, like whether it's a flannel shirt or a cape. It's like there is a costume.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a level of, I think, if you can unlock some stuff about your style if you think, how could I be comfortable as well?
Mm.
So how could I look like really cool and be comfortable? Because the more comfortable you are, the cooler you look.
Like I'm cozy and I'm wearing comfortable boots,
Yeah.
It's like putting like a Dr. Scholl's in the bottom of your like, your pointed shoes.
Yeah. Just some pointers for the performer.
Yeah. Can you explain? Maybe you want to leave it as a surprise for people who come to it. Can you explain what the Hot Fix sideshow is?
It is a collection of strange and unusual talent, and it's sexy, dangerous, hot, cold, surprising. Maybe I hope at some point you don't have to go, but I might.
Is this something that's going to be happening kind of between the bands? Is something that's going to be happening like audience participation, like in the crowd, or?
I want to leave that as a surprise.
Okay, good. I'll bring the people out. They'll be like, okay, I got to know what's going to happen. And it's a good reason to get there early to find out.
Yeah.
And shout out Lobby Boxer, who I also don't know yet, but will be learning about very shortly.
Yeah, they're from St. Louis. And another part about putting together a tour, I think, is like trying to be open to new artists. And like, I have some friends that suggested these guys to me, so I checked them out, and like their style, like there's just something I'm really excited to see them live because I've heard really good things. So
now that there's more music than there ever has been, there's so much like, hey, remember this record from 20 years ago? We're going out on that tour, and like that's it's sort of happening across the board with everybody now.
Playing like reunion records, you mean? Like,
yeah,
we're playing this record all the way through.
Yeah, and I listen. I'm going. I'm at the shows. I just saw The Used for 2 nights the other night. Like, there's nothing that's going to stop me from doing it because I grew up with these records and I love them. So I'm going to go check it out. But it feels to me like we might be starting to get to a place where people are annoyed when they see the Foo Fighters on every festival headlining. And it's like, there was one rock band, it's the Foo Fighters, that's the rock band. You don't get any more. Rock music, alternative music, punk music it has it has like the old guard, the bands that have been around doing it, and I think there is a lot of energy and space for new bands who are inspired by them to grow within the scene, to grow into their own as artists and put out, a record that will hopefully be played in 20 years on their own 20-year anniversary of it. Whereas like other genres, hip hop, pop music, it's a lot of new artists that still are getting to be an artist that can be around for a long time. But it feels like it's a very specific thing for rock music, where it's hard for these newer bands who are inspired by the older bands to get the space, because the old bands are like, no, we're still here though. You can't have our space because we're still doing it. It feels like
well,
you.
I don't.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I interrupted you.
Well, I was just gonna say, it feels like that's what inspired you to bring on Lobby Boxer, and like, having seen you before, it's like it's bands that are your friends, but it's also bands that it seems like you want other people to know about because you like them, or they've been recommended to you and you are passionate about them.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, and I would say that it's, and I mean this in the most respectful way, but it's less about the music and more about their drive, and like their desire to be a band and to play shows, and like I think as long as they're there because they're passionate, like I'm excited about that, and new, and it's like the times, like time is starting to just become timeless. Like it's interesting, like, because as an artist I try to kind of stay out of the time zone. You know what I mean? Like, and I not because it's more about just trying to stay in the moment, I think. So when I wouldn't want to do a reunion record right now, or really ever. I don't, like I will play songs from that time, but it'll be now.
Yeah.
We'll play them now, and it's going to be excited, imbued with that energy, I think,
I agree. I mean, to me, I mean, as a fan, I see Foxy as the band that's like pushing boundaries and not. I like what you say about time, because I think time is something that we all are kind of looking at now as like, we're in these cycles, we're in this loop, but we're also like seeing time being very like both compressed and stretched out, and like, how do we as individuals exist on this timeline with everybody else? And like, I think art helps us to kind of place where we are in that. And I think the reason for all this nostalgia and these 20-year anniversaries is because we remember where we were at that time.
Mm-hmm.
For people like me, I remember where I, heard all these records in 2005, and I go, yes, that was what really changed me as a person. I want that 20 years later. Now there's somebody who is maybe hearing it for the first time at 15 years old, and they're having a very different experience in their timeline of that. And I as somebody who was around for it, and watching the bands, really, I don't think play into it is the right word, but it's like, it meant a lot for them. It meant a lot for the audience. And so they're talking about how it felt for them, and then hearing stories from other people, how it felt for them. And that's sort of like the connection that everybody's making on these nostalgia and anniversary tours. And it's been interesting for me to see it as like, my timeline was, I was there, kid. Don't tell me about don't tell me about what it was like in 2005. I was there. I was at the shows. And now I'm also like, but this experience for you, and the music and the lyrics and the inspiration that this artist is giving to you is different than probably what it was for me at the time. But I also feel different about it now, and I'm re-engaging with it. And the big thing for me in 2025 is like, I want to listen to a lot of bands I never listened to, a lot of music I've never listened to, full discographies of bands, and just like learn as much about them as I can. Cause I'm like, there's so much stuff. There's a lot of bands that I love, and there's a lot of new bands that I haven't even heard yet that I will eventually love. So I'm like
Yeah,
discovering a lot now.
that's awesome, man. Because that's where I think that's where nostalgia is as well. You know, I think that it's in the new things that that it's because what it is the moments of that first feeling of when that thing hits you. You know, when the right thing hits you, and then like sometimes it might not even feel like it's the right thing at first, but then like years later, you're like, man, something about that song. Like I thought I didn't like it, but that really like stuck around with me. And so it works in mysterious ways, but I think there's ways to create nostalgia in in the new, in the now, because it's like it's always great to pay homage to those moments that exist in history of being like I went to see the Green Day the
Mm,
Green Day show last summer, and it was amazing. They
yeah.
played Dookie the whole way through, and like it was awesome. So like there's a great time and place for paying homage to the things that have happened that were huge. But if you forget about all that and you focus on creating a new moment, there is potential there to create more nostalgia for someone for the first time again, new, fresh. And that it'll take a long time for that nostalgia to set in, because you have to get from that moment to 20 years later. But like that that feeling of creating something that someone is like really uh whether they know it or not, they remember it, you know. And it's like if at first they think they don't like it, I think as long as they're a fan and they're willing to like to listen to whoever it is, it's if that person is like creating something new and fresh and being focused on that'll be pretty exciting.
Yeah. What I thought of when you were saying that is like, there's all these bands that are now creating, this nostalgia for people, and there are new bands that are going to come up that, I just saw Anne Berlin too the other week, and I'm like, there are bands that have started because
Oh,
they heard
cool.
Anne Berlin when they were 15, and they're like, I want to make a band that sounds exactly like that.
I think I heard a little bit of their new record, and it was awesome
I
sounding.
like it a lot.
Yeah.
I like what Maddie is doing with them. I also bring up Amberlin because when we were at Riot Fest, Stephen Christian interrupted our interview, and I was
Yeah,
like,
I remember
I don't
that.
even mind. Like, that's awesome. Like, damn,
Oh,
this is so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, those guys are nice. I love those guys.
They're incredible.
We toured with them back in the day, so.
Yeah, which again is like, what an interesting like. Are they the same kind of band? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, yes. Also, yes.
It's like if they're nothing like us, then they're like us.
Exactly. It's like that's it's such a hard question to answer, but also like I would just always tell somebody, just go to the show, just go listen to it, and then go to the show, and you'll get it, and you don't have to ask any more questions. Let's say there was a band that like started making music because they listened to you, and have you ever heard a band where like they're doing something and you go, they stole that from me. They stole some Foxy shit and put it in their music. What the hell?
I mean, I've recognized energy before, but I think that energy wasn't mine to begin with, you know? And I think that's the beautiful thing about music, is that like it's there for everybody to kind of reinterpret and that's what art is. I think is it filters through your way of doing it, you know. And I think with these, this day and age, like the way that technology is working, and how you can just really, how much things are just spitballing creatively, it's best to just let that be free, you know. Like
I
a
agree.
burning crazy ball of crazy burning crazy ball of fire.
That is also how I would describe a Foxy Shazam show. So
Yeah.
that's a fair way. What do you think makes Foxy Shazam emo?
Interesting question. I would say that we're not scared to make sad songs happy. We're not scared to go to sad places in a way that is kind of rejoicing. And I've always been sad songs make me happy, you know, and it's because of how beautiful it is in the way that people express things. And I think the time we came up, you know, like I think that was all going down, you know, like I remember hearing a My Chemical Romance record, and I remember hearing The Used, you know, like you mentioned earlier. And would they be considered emo?
Yeah, the Used is now saying at all their shows like we've been emo the whole fucking time.
Really?
They're really owning it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they kind of brought, you know, that time was just like really, and it was cool. I think just the fact that we existed at that, you know, and through that, and but I do feel like again the timeless aspect of things. It just kind of those things kind of fall away to me, you know, like genres or classifications, and it all just becomes fashionable haircut.
You're like, well, back in the day, I had a little bit of a swoop, so that's pretty much. They were like, put him on Warped Tour. Fuck it, he's on the tour.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. Much less nervous
Thanks,
for this
Brian.
conversation.
Yeah, man. That was great. It was good to talk to you again.
Dude, it's been amazing. What we will see you on the 24th of April. Where can people go and find out more about the tour, find out more about Animality Opera, and then catch you live?
Yeah, any of the internet stuff like Instagram or, you know, TikTok and Facebook and www.foxyshazam.com is the main one. So you just all I do is open up a internet thing and then type in Foxy Shazam.
You usually are the first result when you type that in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands now that are making the joke of like, I wasn't thinking of SEO when I was starting a band in 2000, you know, the 2000s. And I'm
Yeah.
like, Foxy, definitely, I assume you were not thinking of SEO, but damn, if it didn't like work out, like
The strangest, or the only thing people will probably get for us is Shaquille O'Neal in a genie outfit.
Yep. Or I have sometimes seen Beyonce and Austin Powers as Foxy
Oh, yeah,
Cleopatra. Sometimes I got
Yeah,
that. But mostly it's you guys. So it's a pretty easy Google.
That's good company anyway.
Yeah. Beyonce and Shaq and Foxy Shazam.
Yeah.
That is that's the dream tour. DJ Diesel,
Hell
Beyonce, Foxy. I'm in. Eric, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out again. We'll see you in a couple weeks in Chicago, and yeah, just an amazing time talking to you. So thank you again.
You too, man. Thank you. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in Chicago.